Hello friends. I've had a couple of requests to do a video showing my record collection. This is one of those videos that's definitely going to throw off the algorithm a little bit. Normally this is a channel about writing and particularly writing fantasy novels, but it is somewhat pertinent. I write all my novels to music. I'm really big on making playlists for certain books. And the concept behind my fantasy world is that it's like a high fantasy world that had a connection to our world back in ancient times, like a portal that went between the two. Then they closed the portal, lost track of the portal, reopened the portal in our 1880s. And the story as a whole chronicles generally the 20th century as this world becomes modernized. And the pop culture of our world definitely has an impact on them. Just as rock music and folk music, even pop, country, disco, punk had an impact on the broader culture and the politics of our world, that also becomes true in their world. My love of music really shaped how the story is told. Someday I might make another video that's just specifically honing in on the albums that have the most influence on the world or the world building, but this video is already going to be long enough. So I'm just going to flip through my record collection, and I try to buy all my music at record stores in person. I mostly buy older albums. I very rarely buy like new repressings. Occasionally I've ordered stuff on eBay when I feel like I'm probably never gonna find this, or at least it's gonna take a while. And I bought a lot of albums before the pandemic, so most of the albums I have were still like $1 to $12, but in recent years the price of albums has gone way up, so I still do buy them. It's just usually I'm buying like one or two every few months rather than a whole stack. Me and my partner's collection is merged together, so I'm gonna flip through like the ones on my shelf first, but then there's also like the living room shelf, which some of it's his and some of it's stuff we both like. It's all just our collection, and we have fairly similar taste. And one thing I want to note is that on the shelf there, the covers are faced out opposite from alphabetical order, if that makes sense. Like I would have had to flip them all around to do it in alphabetical order, so we're going shelf by shelf backwards. So this is from Eno to A. Got Brian Eno's Another Green World. Got this for a great deal, but unfortunately it is a little warped. I don't know if that's my fault because I bought it on a super hot day and I tried my best to protect it in the car, but I don't know. It plays mostly well, just the first song is a little rough. Brian Eno, Before and After Science. That's actually not all the Eno, that's just what fit on that shelf. Echo and the Bunnymen, Crocodiles. Echo and the Bunnymen, Ocean Rain. If you ask me what my favorite song of the 80s is, Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen is a serious contender. Duran Duran, Rio. Duran Duran, self-titled? This is self-titled, right? Dire Straits, Communique. Dire Straits, Making Movies. Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. Dire Straits, self-titled. Dire Straits Live, Alchemy. Dire Straits, Love Over Gold. Devo, Freedom of Choice, amazing album. This is one of like the best albums to dance to. Devo, Duty Now for the Future. Oh No, It's Devo. Depeche Mode, Some Great Reward. John Denver, Rocky Mountain Christmas. John Denver, Seasons of the Heart. Big childhood memories with both of these two albums. John Denver's Greatest Hits. John Denver, Back Home Again. John Denver, Rhymes and Reasons. Look at that young John Denver. John Denver, Farewell Andromeda. This one has one of my favorite John Denver songs, I'd Rather Be a Cowboy. John Denver, Airy. Let me mention that my dad played a lot of John Denver when I was growing up and would also play John Denver songs on his own guitar, and is often compared to John Denver. So this all has like major childhood nostalgia to me. I almost never listen to it because it all makes me cry. Danger Mouse and Danielle Lupi present Rome. I found this at the thrift store, so that's the main reason I have it. Here's some Italian guy. I've never listened to this record because it's extremely dirty, but I buy everything Italian at the thrift store because I love vintage Italian music. Bing Crosby, Merry Christmas. Lloyd Cole and the Commotions, Rattlesnakes. This is a somewhat underappreciated album that kind of has that like 80s like John Hughes movie kind of like vibe. I don't know what you call like 80s alternative or something. The Chieftains, Bonaparte's Retreat. The Chieftains 9, Boil the Breakfast Early. The Chieftains 8. The Chieftains 3, they're not in order on my shelf. The Chieftains music from Ballad of the Irish Horse. I do not have my favorite Chieftains album, which is the Christmas one. Bells of Dublin, one of the best albums ever. Cheap Trick, Dream Police. Cheap Trick at Budokan. Castle Bay, another thrift store find that's some kind of like Irish music. Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line. Best of Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire. Johnny Cash and the Tennessee 2, Get Rhythm. The Cars, Shake It Up. The Cars, Heartbeat City. The Cars, Self-Titled. The Cars, Panorama. John Cale, Slow Dazzle. This is actually a modern repressing. I did not realize it when I bought it. John Cale, Vintage Violence. Still need some John Cale. John Cale, Paris 1919. Vashti Bunyan, Some Things Just Stick in Your Mind, Singles and Demos. This is another modern pressing. It's really the only way to get it. I love this album. I love, love, love Train Song. The Buggles, The Age of Plastic. This album's best known for Video Killed the Radio Star, but I love this album. The Buggles, Adventures in Modern Recording. Buffalo Springfield, Retrospective. I need more Buffalo Springfield. The Sound of Bread. Bread, Baby, I'ma Want You. David Bowie, Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. It's not the best copy, but it's the only one I've ever found, and it was only $8. Station to Station, David Bowie. Probably my favorite Bowie album, although it's very close. David Live, another ugly cover, but good price. Same with Bowie Pinups. Then I have like the most gorgeous copy of Diamond Dogs. I think this is a second pressing from the UK, and somebody on eBay listed it really badly. I got it very cheaply for what it is. It sounds amazing. And when I got it, I don't think it had ever been played. Like, you know, when the hole on the record is super tight and like it still had like little paper powder, like it had just come out of the printer. David Bowie, Let's Dance. David Bowie, Hunky Dory. Still missing some David Bowie. Gordon Bach, Anne Mayo Muir, and Ed Trickett, Fashion in the Clay, and The Ways of Man. These are more thrift store finds, like folk music. And they're pretty good. Gordon Bach, Bay of Fundy. Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. Bee Gees' Greatest. Some more good dance music. Best of the Bee Gees. This is more like early Bee Gees versus later Bee Gees. Bee Gees' Trafalgar. Need a better copy of that. It's actually in terrible condition. Bee Gees' Horizontal. Bee Gees' Cucumber Castle. This is my favorite Bee Gees album. It's so sad. I never listen to it. I just cry and cry, but it is my favorite. Bee Gees' Idea. The Beatles' Hard Day's Night. Introducing the Beatles. B-52s. Unfortunately, I paid a lot for this, and it skips. This is like the most disappointing thing in my collection. Arcade Fire, Funeral. Arcade Fire, The Suburbs. Albion Country Band, Battle of the Field. English Ballad Rock, found it at the thrift store. Adam and the Ants, Prince Charming. 801 Live with Brian Eno, Phil Manzanera, etc. So now we're on to Kraftwerk, back to Eno again. So we've got Kraftwerk Trans Europe Express, Kraftwerk Audubon, the Kinks Arthur, not in the best condition. It's really hard to find Kinks albums. I have most of them on like the deluxe CD issues, but the Kinks are one of my favorite bands of all time. Kinks Face to Face, Kinks Greatest Hits, which I found at a thrift store in like the year 2000. The Kinks Live at Kelvin Hall, which is terrible. You can't hear them. The audience is screaming too much. Jethro Tull, This Was. Jethro Tull, The Broadsword and the Beast. Jethro Tull, Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die. Jethro Tull Live. Jethro Tull Heavy Horses, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. Jethro Tull Thick as a Brick. Jethro Tull Songs from the Wood. Jethro Tull Passion Play. You getting sick of Jethro Tull yet? Jethro Tull Stand Up, the best of Jethro Tull, Jethro Tull Stormwatch, the worst of Jefferson Airplane. The lighting right now is really bad on plastic. The Jam, This Is the Modern World. I'm sorry, I had to say it like that. It was legally obligated. Michael Jackson Thriller, The Irish Rovers, The Unicorn, The Irish Rovers, The Life of the Rover. Inti Illimani Imagination, an album of instrumental music. It's like from the Andes. I found this at the thrift store. It's actually pretty cool. Iggy Pop TVI. Iggy Pop maxi single for Cry for Love. Where is my other Iggy Pop album? I guess I put it under pop. Billy Idol, self-titled. The Hot Mud Family, Buckeyes in the Briar Patch. This was like an Ohioan bluegrass band I found somewhere for cheap. Buddy Holly and the Crickets, 20 Golden Greats. The Hollies, 20 Greatest Hits. Heart, B.B. Lestrange. Heart, Bad Animals. Heart, self-titled. Heart, Dog and Butterfly. One of my earliest memories when I was probably like 4 or something is asking my mom to put on the cassette of this for me to fall asleep to. Heart, Dreamboat Annie, Emmylou Harris, Elite Hotel, Emmylou Harris, Pieces of the Sky. This is actually not the Merle Haggard album that's in here. It is actually My Love Affair with Trains. I got this one for free just as like part of a lot. I was looking for a Waylon, and this kind of got thrown in. Arlo Guthrie, self-titled. Arlo Guthrie, Hobo's Lullaby. Arlo Guthrie, Amigo. Arlo Guthrie with Shenandoah, Outlasting the Blues. Pete Seeger and Arlo Guthrie together in concert. Arlo Guthrie, One Night. Arlo Guthrie, Running Down the Road. Arlo Guthrie, Last of the Brooklyn Cowboys. Arlo Guthrie is another artist that my parents played growing up, so a lot of nostalgia with Arlo. Sarah Gray with Ed Trickett. This came from the same thrift store as the Gordon Bach records. Go-Go's Vacation. Gloria Mundi, The Word Is Out. Gloria Mundi, I Individual. I talked about this on a video. I recently discovered this band and I really dig them, and they're almost totally unknown. They have such a weird mixture of influences going on, definitely kind of in that post-punk space, but I kind of hear some bits of like prog and early metal and glam all going on. Gary Glitter. Glitter, a lot of controversy with Gary Glitter as a man, but you know, he could do a good glam stomper, so the money doesn't go to him anymore. Philip Glass, the photographer, another thrift store find. Dan Fogelberg, High Country Snows, another album that my parents played when I was a kid, so I bought it out of like nostalgia. Dan Fogelberg's Greatest Hits, Dan Fogelberg Windows and Walls, Dan Fogelberg Souvenirs, Flight of the Conchords. I told you I was freaky. Flight of the Conchords self-titled, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, Fleetwood Mac. I actually like Fleetwood Mac more than Rumors. Fleetwood Mac Tusk, Fleetwood Mac Mirage, Flash in the Pan, which is definitely kind of a quirky, hard to describe little record. This band is the members of the Easy Beats, the 60s group, and this was kind of their later effort. Scylla Fisher and Artie Trezise for Foul Day and Fair. As you can guess, this also came from that thrift store with all of these folk legacy records. Brian Ferry maxi single for Limbo. Brian Ferry maxi single for Kiss and Tell. Maxi single for Help Me. Brian Ferry maxi single for Windswept. Although I mostly talk about David Bowie on the channel because his personality had a huge impact on me, my actual favorite band is Roxy Music, and I love Brian Ferry. So I have a stupid amount of Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. Fairport Convention, Fairport Chronicles. I got this at the thrift store for like $1, and it only has one record in it, even though it's a double album. Oh well. The Everly Brothers, EB84, Everly Brothers, A Date with the Everly Brothers. These are both thrift store. Enya, Watermark. Brian Eno, Music for Fans, Volume 2. This is a bootleg with some of Brian Eno's live performances. Brian Eno, Here Come the Warm Jets, and Brian Eno, Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy. All right, this pile is Slade to whatever came after Kraftwerk. So we got Slade, Sladist, another great glam rock or dance album. Susie and the Banshees, Kaleidoscope, classic. This is another one I ordered from the UK. I've never seen a single Susie and the Banshees album in the wild. Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. This is here because it actually holds Simon and Garfunkel, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. I found it just loose at the thrift store, so somebody had shipped us a different album inside with this as like a bolster, so that's why that's there. Simon and Garfunkel, The Graduate soundtrack, Shoes, Present Tense, and Roof Rex, Flowers for All Occasions. Both the Shoes and Roof Rex albums were bands that I came across on this website called like the Mod Pop Punk Archive that used to be around in the early 2000s, and I downloaded like a zillion songs off this website. Roxy Music, The High Road, Viva Roxy Music. This is definitely not all my Roxy Music, they're just in a special case. The Rolling Stones, Hot Rocks, the legendary Jimmy Rogers Volume 1, Marty Robbins Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs. This is an early pressing that came from my father-in-law's collection. Matty Pryor and Tim Hart Summer Solstice. This is more English ballad rock I found at the thrift store. The Legendary Magic of Elvis Presley. The good thing about making this video is that me and Dade can flip through, can watch it when we're not sure what record to listen to and be like, oh yeah, that one. The Pretenders, self-titled. The Pretenders, Get Close. The Pretenders, also self-titled. I don't know quite what their title scheme is. Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, Raising Sand. There's the other Iggy Pop album, The Idiot. Great album. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Damn the Torpedoes. Pet Shop Boys, Please. Very hard to find Pet Shop Boys also. This is the only one I've ever seen. The Pentangle, Solomon Seal. Pentangle, Sweet Child. Pentangle, Basket of Light. Pentangle, Cruel Sister. I am really into English, like ballad rock lately, and my favorite one is actually Trees, but you can't find Trees on vinyl. But Pentangle's pretty awesome also. Trees, I also have all these on CD in a box set too. Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz, the Osbourne Brothers, Modern Sounds of Bluegrass Music. I just kind of have some random bluegrass thrown in, like whatever, I don't know, falls in my lap, I guess. Gary Newman and Tubeway Army replicas. Tubeway Army featuring Gary Newman, first album. This is like more punk than you expect Gary Newman to be. Gary Newman, The Pleasure Principle. Klaus Nomi, Simple Man. Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and Lots of Friends. During the pandemic, for some reason, this is one of the only things I wanted to listen to. I just got into like this deep, like old country gospel mood. Like I guess it was comforting, and I just listened to this over and over. The Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes were green. He had the Stevie Nicks, Rock a Little. This is definitely not the only Stevie Nicks album. New Order, Power, Corruption, and Lies. Currently, this is the album I paid the most for in my whole collection. It was $70, which is currently the record. New Order, Brotherhood, Nina 99 Luftballons, Munich Machine, A Wider Shade of Pale. This is basically Giorgio Moroder's outfit, like kind of disco dance music. I love Giorgio Moroder. If you don't know who that is, he did the soundtrack for The Neverending Story. Like enough said. The Motels, Careful. The Motels, self-titled. Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. Classic. Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys, Bluegrass Style. Then and Now, The Best of the Monkees. Mina del Mio Meglio. Again, I love old Italian music, so I always buy it. Paul McCartney, Band on the Run. Paul McCartney, Tug of War. Muriel Mathieu? Oh, I don't know. I'm not good at pronouncing French, but this is another thrift store find. As was this, same thrift store, Magnifique. Martha and the Muffins, Metro Music. It's fun little early 80s female band. Martha and the Muffins, Trance and Dance. Phil Manzanera and 801. Listen Now. This album has a very like Dark Side of the Moon progness to it. Mamas and the Papas. This has Strange Young Girls, which is one of my favorite Mamas and Papas songs. And that is not on Mamas and the Papas 20 Golden Hits. And then we have Mama Cass Elliot, Make Your Own Kind of Music. If you watched Lost, this song is stuck in your head forever. Magpie, Working My Life Away, another thrift store folk album. Magazine, we have Play, the live album. Secondhand Daylight, After the Fact, and Real Life, one of my favorite albums of all time. Certainly one of my favorite not mainstream albums. This album is totally like if a punk band was trying to be Roxy Music / Bowie in the Aladdin Sane era, which is why I love it. Andy Mackey, In Search of Eddie Riff. Andy Mackey is the saxophonist for Roxy Music, and I actually surprisingly enjoyed his solo sax album, which I wasn't expecting that. And he has a kitty. Loretta Lynn, One's on the Way, another thrift store album. Lord Huron, Long Lost, one of my favorite bands ever and my favorite album of theirs. This is another album that just makes me cry and cry and cry, but it's so good. Gordon Lightfoot, Don Quixote. Gordon Lightfoot, Summertime Dream. Gordon Lightfoot, Gord's Gold. If you're only going to get one Gordon Lightfoot album, and you should, because Gordon Lightfoot is amazing, Gord's Gold is great. And it's not just a best of, the songs are actually redone with more backing strings and stuff, so I really love the versions on Gord's Gold. However, it does not have the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is probably his best known song. Gordon Lightfoot, Endless Wire, Gordon Lightfoot, Sundown, Gordon Lightfoot, Dream Street Rose, Gordon Lightfoot. I have 2 covers of this, but one of them has old Dan's records in it. Gordon Lightfoot, Cold on the Shoulder, and just to break up the Gordon Lightfoot a little bit, we have some Led Zeppelin. Okay, then we have the last of my personal main shelf, from the Zombies to the middle of the S's. This album is so good. It sounds so good. It was not cheap, but it was super worth it. Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Everybody knows This Is Nowhere. Neil Young, Harvest. The Yardbirds Greatest Hits, Volume 1. I would love to have more Yardbirds, but hard to find those old bands. Steve Winwood, Chronicles. Wings Greatest. Wings London Town. Wings Venus and Mars. Wings Over America. Hank Williams Greatest Hits. Kim Wilde. I think this is just self-titled, but it has Kids in America on it. But this is really a very solid album all the way through. Kim Wilde, Teases and Dares. I haven't listened to Kim Wilde in a while. I should. The Who, Who's Next? The Who, Happy Jack. This album does not sound very good. Don't buy it. Like, the quality of the actual pressing was not great. Jack White, Lazaretto. I found this at the thrift store, and this is like the album that has all these like kind of tricks to it, and I can't figure out how to play it, guys. I even looked online to like get instructions, and I'm too stupid to play that album. Harry and Jeannie West, Smoky Mountain Ballads. I really like it when bluegrass has a female lead singer, so I tend to pick up anything cheap with a female lead singer. Waylon Live. This is another album. During the pandemic, I could not stop listening to Waylon Live and Will the Circle Be Unbroken. I don't know what mood that was, but I needed old country men to comfort me. Willie Nelson with Waylon Jennings, Take It to the Limit. Willie Nelson, Red-Headed Stranger. This is a great album. Willie Nelson, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Willie Nelson, City of New Orleans. Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson, Poncho and Lefty. I had the song Poncho and Lefty in my head like my entire life. Only just a snippet of it, and I never knew what it was until I watched the Ken Burns country music documentary, and I was like, that's it. Poncho needs your prayers, it's true. Willie Nelson, Before His Time. The Outlaws, Waylon Willie, Jesse Coulter, Tomful Glazer, Wanted. I also listened to this during the pandemic. Those are the 3 albums. It's a fantastic album. Like, if I was trying to get someone into country who doesn't like country, this is probably the one I would give them. Waylon and Willie, WW2. Waylon, the Ramblin' Man. I just kind of have Waylon and Willie thrown in there together. Just, you know, they do a lot of stuff together, so it seemed to make sense. Doc Watson, Southbound. A great bluegrassy kind of album. I saw Doc Watson live when I was a kid, and he told a lot of great stories. He has a great storyteller voice. Visage Singles Collection, Fade to Gray. This is also just a great dance album. Van Halen, 5150. I actually found this at a thrift store, which was a great find. I had been looking for this album everywhere. It's my favorite Van Halen album. Tina Turner, Break Every Rule. Tina Turner, Private Dancer. The World of Ike and Tina Live. Ike and Tina, Enough Said. Solid Gold, T-Rex. T-Rex, Electric Warrior, and T-Rex, The Slider. These were the first 2 albums that I ever bought when I was like 20 or 21. I went to the record store, Rock and Roll Heaven, in Orlando. And I remember thinking at the time, like, dang, these are expensive records. $8? Slider was $6, but okay, I guess I'll buy them. Like, I'm probably not going to find those at the thrift store. So I've had those for a very long time. Good thing, because I've never seen either of them at a record store. Touchstone, The New Land. I think this is also like Celtic or folk or something, but thrift store finds. Torn Boys. This has a very Velvet Underground kind of vibe. I just kind of found this recently at the local record store. Tomita, Snowflakes Are Dancing. Tomita, Pictures at an Exhibition. And Tomita's Greatest Hits. These are all like classical music played on the Moog. Love the atmosphere. Thunderhead, more Celtic music from the thrift store. Thompson Twins, Into the Gap. Talking Heads, more songs about buildings and food. One of the greatest album titles of all time, in my opinion, and also an amazing album. Talking Heads, CBS Demos, 1975. This was a bootleg. It's always nice to find bootlegs in the wild because you can't really buy them because, you know, they're bootlegs, so eBay like pulls the listings. Sweet, The Golden Greats. Sunflower Bean, Human Ceremony. Sunflower Bean, Head Full of Sugar. Sunflower Bean, Show Me Your 7 Secrets. I really like Sunflower Bean, and I don't really keep up with modern music, so if I have a modern band in here, it's just because I got on Spotify on a random day, listened to a random song, and was like, oh, I actually really like this song, let me get into this band. It's like the most random luck of the draw that you can imagine that I'm a fan of any new band. Donna Summer, Greatest Hits, Volumes 1 and 2. Great dance record. Donna Summer, Four Seasons of Love, which still has the poster in it, which I keep being kind of tempted to hang up. I mean, you know, I could hang Donna Summer's Four Seasons on my door. It would be kind of hilarious, but I haven't done it yet. The Stranglers, La Folie, another one that I ordered on eBay because I don't see the Stranglers in the wild very much, and I think this is my favorite Stranglers album. Golden brown, texture like sun, lays me down. Stranglers, The Raven. Stranglers, No More Heroes. Alan Stivell, A Renaissance of the Celtic Harp. I think that my mom picked this one up at like a thrift store or something, and I actually really like it. It's really nice harp music. UK Squeeze and Squeeze Singles. Sparks Propaganda. Sparks in Outer Space. It is very hard to find Sparks albums as well. They're kind of hard to describe. A little bit glam and a little bit kind of very lyrical, weird art rock, but like with a sense of humor. Sparks, Number One in Heaven, another one that I ordered online because I've never seen it and I love this album so much. It's a great dance album and it's funny. The Smiths, Meat is Murder. The Small Faces, The Immediate Story. Now, if you ask me what my favorite song of the 1960s is, a strong contender would be The Small Faces, Tin Soldier. It's an amazing song, and I bought this because it has it on it. The Small Faces, Early Faces, and Small Faces, Ogden's Nut Gone Flake. I love the Small Faces. On one of the lower shelves, under some of the manga, is a very random, unalphabetized collection of soundtracks and compilations. So we have the 1965 San Remo Festival winning songs, more Italian stuff. Through the Back Door, this is a very solid, like early 80s punk, or post-punk, power pop kind of compilation. Found it at the thrift store and it's really quite good. Hit House was German 70s music. The official album of Walt Disney World Epcot Center. Big nostalgia. I actually found this at a pawn shop. It is a very rare album and they just had it in like a $4 bin at a pawn shop, so I was very happy about that. Echoes of Italy. This is just like music you play when you're cooking Italian food. The Warner Pioneer Top Single Collection from Japan. I love these old Japanese pop compilations. I would love to have more of them. More German pop compilations of the 70s. I have a few of these. One day I found them all at the Goodwill bins, so I just grabbed them. Like, why not? Saturday Night Pogo, collection of Los Angeles new wave bands. The standout on here is a song called I'm in Love with Your Mom. It's pretty hilarious. I'm in love with your mom. Country's greatest hits. You know, whatever. The Roots of Rock and Roll, Rockabilly. This one compilation somehow had like every one of my favorite songs from the 50s on it. Particularly The Train Kept A-Rollin' by Johnny Burnett, which is just like, damn, that song rocks so hard for the 50s. It's almost unbelievable to me. Banjo music of the Southern Appalachians. This is sung by the Kosoy sisters, and I really, really love Bowling Green. Hey, good old Bowling Green. It's just such a great bluegrass track. Panorama de la Chanson Française. Just old French music. How to Belly Dance for Your Husband. I found this at a thrift store like when I was 20 or something and thought it was hilarious. Quiet Village, The Exotic Sounds of Martin Denny. Always nice to have a little exotica in your collection, along with Taboo, The Exotic Sounds of Arthur Lyman, and Pagan Festival, an exotic love ritual for orchestra. This one's pretty awesome. Cat People, music by Giorgio Moroder. Like I said, I love Moroder, and I will buy any soundtrack with his name on it. The soundtrack to Salvation. I've never heard of this movie, but it has a lot of New Order on the soundtrack. Bachelor Party soundtrack. This has some Oingo Boingo and just is generally a pretty rockin' 80s new wave soundtrack. More old Italian music. Another Giorgio Moroder soundtrack, The Midnight Express. Somehow I have 2 copies of that. Probably just bought them by accident. One of the masterpieces, Giorgio Moroder's Metropolis. This is a great soundtrack. I particularly love Bonnie Tyler's song on here, Here She Comes. Here she comes, here she comes. 10 Gundam soundtracks. Got a couple of those. Be Forever Yamato. Pretty in Pink. Absolute classic soundtrack. Vision Quest, another fantastic soundtrack. Urusei Yatsura Hit Parade Volume 2. Very awesome. And it's a picture disc. Top Gun soundtrack. Halt and Catch Fire soundtrack. One of my favorite TV shows ever. Times Square soundtrack. This is just a great lineup of music. Lost in Translation soundtrack. A tribute to Woody Guthrie. Many, many years ago, I thrifted this record case at a thrift store, and this one holds mostly like our favorite bands. So my favorite band is Roxy Music. Dade's favorite band is ABBA. So we got Roxy Music, self-titled. Randomly, we have the Project A-ko soundtrack. Guess we have a few anime soundtracks in here too, because we didn't have as many of them. We just kind of squeezed them in. Roxy Music for Your Pleasure. In the morning, things you worried about last night will seem lighter. Roxy Music Country Life with the UK cover. Roxy Music Stranded. Roxy Music with the US cover, Country Life. The Wings of Oniame soundtrack. Data's had the A-ko and the Oniame soundtrack for like as long as we've been dating, which is 25 years or more. ABBA self-titled. ABBA Waterloo. The Visitors. Roxy Music Siren. Brian Ferry, Let's Stick Together. As you can tell, these don't really stay organized. Brian Ferry, Boys and Girls. Roxy Music, Avalon. Brian Ferry, Bête Noire. Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That one just kind of got in there because it's a great album. Roxy Music, Manifesto. ABBA, Arrival. ABBA, the album. ABBA, Voulez-Vous. Roxy Music, Alive from Stockholm, bootleg. Why Do You Think I'm a Funky Chick? Brian Ferry, In Your Mind. Brian Ferry, The Bride Stripped Bare. Roxy Music, Flesh and Blood. Also, hiding out behind that case was the soundtrack to the Loki series. Okay, so now we've moved on to the shelf that's in the living room, and this shelf is generally stuff that either my partner likes more than I do or that we both equally love. And as you can see, the cats are getting very involved right now. So this is from The Fix to the letter A. So we have The Fix, Shuttered Room. The Fix, React. Fanny, Mother's Pride. Fanny is an underappreciated, all-female, early 70s band that really rocks. Agneta from ABBA, Wrap Your Arms Around Me. Europe, The Final Countdown. Raise your hand if you're hearing that riff as soon as I say that. The Escape Club, Wild Wild West. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Pictures at an Exhibition. Electric Light Orchestra, El Dorado. Electric Light Orchestra, The Night the Light Went On in Long Beach, live album. Unfortunately, this copy kind of sucks. Electric Light Orchestra, Out of the Blue. And this one does include the Punch Out of Freedom City, which actually, I found this in a thrift store copy of this album that was totally trashed. The record was trashed, the cover was trashed, and yet inside it had this. So I bought it for $1 just to get this, and then we've got a better copy of the album itself. And I keep thinking about punching it out and hanging it from the ceiling because it's so awesome and, like, you know, life short. But then I can never quite bring myself to do it. Electric Light Orchestra, Secret Messages, Electric Light Orchestra, Time. This is basically the album that we fell in love to. We used to drive around and just listen to Time over and over. I was in love with this album, and it also kind of had a connection to the Anime Club because this song Twilight was used in the Daikon animation.
I have a message from another time.
Which was often played at the Anime Club. So I had the strong association of ELO and anime. We met in the Anime Club, if I don't think I mentioned that. Electric Light Orchestra, Discovery. Electric Light Orchestra, On the Third Day. Echo and the Bunnymen, the Killing Moon maxi single, all-night version. As I noted, this is one of my favorite songs of the 80s. The Eagles, Hotel California. The Eagles, Desperado. The Eagles, On the Border. Eagles, Self-Titled. Neil Diamond, Love at the Greek. Dead or Alive, Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know. John Cougar, Nothing Matters and What If It Did. Joe Cocker, I Can Stand a Little Rain. Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. Chicago 2. Chicago Transit Authority. Wendy Carlos, then known as Walter Carlos, and the Well-Tempered Synthesizer. We don't have Hooked on Bach. Jimmy Buffett, Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes. Buckingham Nicks. At the time I bought this for $25 in 2017, this was the most expensive record that I had bought at the time. I remember kind of waffling on it. Thank goodness I bought it because, man, this sucker is hard to find now. Jackson Browne, Late for the Sky. Laura Branigan, Branigan 2. Laura Branigan, Hold Me. Branigan. Laura Branigan, Self Control. I love the song Self Control. Boston, Self-Titled. Boston, Don't Look Back. Boston, Third Stage. The Best of Blondie. Berlin, Love Life. Berlin, Pleasure Victim. Good Vibrations, Best of the Beach Boys. This is a great compilation if you just want to get like the non-beachy Beach Boys, but you don't want to pay for Pet Sounds, which is so expensive. Bad Company, Straight Shooter. Asia. Is this self-titled? I think it is. Arcade Fire, Reflector. As you can see, the Arcade Fire got a bit divvied up between the shelves. Animotion, Air Supply, Lost in Love. Abacadabra, The Visitors, and One of Us, maxi single. Bryan Adams, Reckless. Aerosmith's Greatest Hits. Oh, Bryan Adams, Cuts Like a Knife. These got a little out of order. Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier. Adam and the Ants also got a little broken up between shelves. Adam Ant, Friend or Foe. And ABC, The Lexicon of Love. This is a great album. All right, and this is from Mott the Hoople to whatever came after The Fix. Mott the Hoople, All the Young Dudes. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. Moody Blues, The Other Side of Life. I need to make room. I put a few too many here. Missing Persons, Spring Session M. The Mike Curb Congregation, Burning Bridges, and Other Great Motion Picture Themes. Milli Vanilli, All or Nothing, maxi single, and Blame It on the Rain, maxi single. Men at Work, Cargo. Men at Work, Business as Usual. Meatloaf, Bad Outta Hell. Roger McGuinn, Cardiff Rose. Don McLean, American Pie. I don't know if it's McLean or McLean. Paul McCartney, Ram. Brian May and Friends, Starfleet Project. I don't know what this one sounds like either. Manilow Magic, 16 of Barry's Greatest Songs. Madonna, La Isla Bonita, maxi single. Madonna Turn Blue, trashed cover, but the record sounds good, so we got it for free. Thanks to our lovely record store guy. Madonna Live to Tell, maxi single. Loverboy, self-titled. Loverboy, Get Lucky. Loverboy, Keep It Up. Little River Band, Sleeper Catcher. Maxi single of Obsession, performed by Holly Knight and Michael Desbars. John and Vangelis, The Friends of Mr. Cairo. John and Vangelis, Short Stories. Elton John, Rock of the Westies. Elton John, Tumbleweed Connection. Elton John, Madman Across the Water. Elton John, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Elton John, Honky Chateau. Billy Joel, The Stranger. Possibly one of the contenders for my favorite album ever. I have probably played this record more than almost any other record. I don't know. It's just so good. And the atmosphere reminds me of certain things that happen in my fantasy world, which sounds a little funny, but it's true. Billy Joel, Turnstiles. Billy Joel, An Innocent Man. Billy Joel, The Nylon Curtain. Billy Joel, Piano Man. Billy Joel, Street Life Serenade. Billy Joel, 52nd Street. Billy Joel, Glass Houses, Billy Joel, The Bridge. We do like Billy Joel in this house. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Love Rock and Roll. Jefferson Starship, Nuclear Furniture. Jefferson Starship, Modern Times. Iron Maiden, The Number of the Beast. In Excess, Shabu Shuba. Don Henley, The End of the Innocents. Don Henley, Building the Perfect Beast. Don Henley, I Can't Stand Still. Corey Hart, I don't know what the title of this is. This is not an album I know anything about. By in the BX. Richard Harris, A Tramp Shining. Daryl Hall, John Oates, Rock and Soul Part 1. GTR. Grand Funk Railroad, Mark, Don, and Mel, 1969 to 1971. Genesis, Nursery Crimes. Genesis, Duke. Genesis, Selling England by the Pound. I love this album. I particularly just love Firth of Fifth. I mean, the whole album's good, but I really, really love when a song has like multiple parts and it evolves as it goes. That's like one of my things that I love. So that's one. Jethro Tull's Heavy Horses is one. Roxy Music has a bunch like that. Gordon Lightfoot's Canadian Railway trilogy. It just gets me every time when a song has like 3 different parts. Oh, Queen has a number like that, especially in their early period. Genesis, Invisible Touch. Genesis, Self-Titled. Genesis, Abacab. Whoops. Jay Giles Band, Freeze Frame. Peter Gabriel, So. Frida, Something's Going On. Frampton Comes Alive. Foreigner, like a best of. Foreigner, Double Vision. Foreigner 4. Foreigner, Agent Provocateur. Flock of Seagulls. And here we have From Springsteen to Back Somewhere in the Ends. Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska. J.D. Souther, You're Only Lonely. John David Souther, Soft Cell maxi single for Tainted Love, Where Did Our Love Go? Amazing song. Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Stranger in Town. Bob Seger, Like a Rock. Scandal, Love's Got a Line on You. Leon Russell, Will o' the Wisp. Leon Russell, Carney. Rolling Stones, Made in the Shade. Kenny Rogers, We've Got Tonight. Johnny Rivers' Greatest Hits. REO Speedwagon, Wheels Are Turnin'. REO Speedwagon, Life as We Know It. REO Speedwagon, 9 Lives. REO Speedwagon, Good Trouble. REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity. REO Speedwagon, You Can Tune a Piano, but You Can't Tune a Fish. And REO. Red Rider, As Far as Siam. I got this for Lunatic Fringe, although we also have it on the Vision Quest soundtrack. But Queen, A Day at the Races. Much like Bowie, Queen is a band that is really difficult to find. Queen, The Miracle. Queen, A Kind of Magic maxi single. Queen 2, my favorite Queen album. Luckily, one of the easier Queen albums to find. If you want an album that sounds like a fantasy novel, you can hardly do better than Queen 2.
White queen walks and the night grows day.
And Queen 1, my second favorite Queen album, because I just love the early Queen when they were just doing the fantasy thing. Queen, The Works. Queen, Sheer Heart Attack, which I got at a flea market in Tennessee for like $10. Yes, please. Quattro by Susie Quattro. This one opens with a real banger with Devilgate Drive. Prince, 1999. Prince, Around the World in a Day. Prince, Purple Rain. We got a couple of Elvis gospel records, which honestly I think we could probably just get rid of. I do like Elvis, but the gospel's a little much. Power Station maxi single with Some Like It Hot and Bang a Gong. The Pointer Sisters, Break Out. The Police, Synchronicity. Poco, Crazy Eyes. The Platters, Encore of Golden Hits. And the Platters, Platterama. I don't know how much overlap there was between those. We might not need them both, but... Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. 1978 quadraphonic German press. I don't really know which Dark Side of the Moons are the best. There are a million pressings. It's very intimidating. This just happened to be like the first copy that we ever came across of this album that wasn't like over $100. So actually, I guess, while my most expensive album was New Order, this is Dade's most expensive album. Pink Floyd, A Collection of Great Dance Songs. Dolly Parton's Greatest Hits. Alan Parsons Project, I, Robot. This is definitely my favorite Alan Parsons album. Alan Parsons Project, Ammonia Avenue. Alan Parsons, Eye in the Sky. Alan Parsons Pyramid. Alan Parsons Tales of Mystery and Imagination, Edgar Allan Poe. Alan Parsons Turn of the Friendly Card. Here's the rest of the Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks Belladonna. Stevie Nicks The Wild Heart. Juice Newton Quiet Lies. And Olivia Newton-John Let Me Be There. Okay, so this is the letter Y or Z or wherever it ends. Back to Springsteen, but there were a couple that were sitting on top. So they're out of order. There's Fog Hat, Fool for the City. Melanie, Candles in the Rain, which is an amazing song. Jefferson Starship, Freedom at Point Zero. And then we get to Yaz, Upstairs at Eric's. Wizard, Wizard's Brew. Wham, Make It Big. Wham, Music from the Edge of Heaven. Joe Walsh, The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get. Village People, Live and Sleazy. Village People, Go West. Village People, Self-Titled. The Ventures play Telstar. The Ventures, I Walk the Line. Vanilla Fudge. Bonnie Tyler, It's a Heartache. Bonnie Tyler, Faster Than the Speed of Night. I always really enjoy the transition with her hair. Toto 4. Till Tuesday, Voices Carry. Till Tuesday, Welcome Home. Thompson Twins, Here's to Future Days. 38 Special, Tour de Force. One of several records we have from the Jane Wyatt collection. 10cc, the original soundtrack. This is one my parents used to play when I was a kid. Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair. Rachel Sweet, Fool Around. Rachel Sweet, And Then He Kissed Me. Sweet, Level Headed. Sweet, Desolation Boulevard. Supertramp, Breakfast in America. It says $1, but I actually got this for $0.25 at a thrift store back in the day. Man, looking at the prices on a lot of these records really just makes you want to time travel back to really any time from the 90s CD era to before the pandemic. Supertramp, Even in the Quietest Moments. Supertramp, Brother, Where You Bound. Supertramp, Live in Paris. Supertramp, Crisis, What Crisis? Supertramp, Famous Last Words. Supertramp, Crime of the Century. Styx, Pieces of 8. Styx, The Grand Illusion. Styx, Paradise Theater. Rod Stewart, Blondes Have More Fun. Steve Miller Band, Book of Dreams. Steve Miller Band, Greatest Hits, 74 to 78. Jim Steinman, Bad for Good. Billy Squier, Don't Say No. Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. And finally, here is the random compilations and soundtracks. The best of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Oh, they're switched on Bach. Okay, well, that makes sense. Hooked on Classics 2. Hooked on Classics. Prairie Home Companion, The Family Radio. Prairie Home Companion Tourists. Prairie Home Companion Anniversary Album. Gold Rush 79. Pure Rock. Xanadu soundtrack. Working Girl soundtrack. Superman the movie soundtrack. Streets of Fire soundtrack. Star Wars soundtrack. Stranger Things soundtrack. The Rocky Horror Show, which in my opinion is worth getting. It is superior to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Disney's Robin Hood. Popeye soundtrack. The Pirate Movie. The Natural. Miami Vice. Miami Vice 2. Lost in Space. Local Hero, music by Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits. Jesus Christ Superstar. Hair. Gravity. Flash Gordon. Flash Dance. Explorers. Electric Dreams, which has one of my favorite ELO songs, Let It Run. Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange, another Wendy Carlos composition. Chess. Chariots of Fire. It looks like I kind of tried to alphabetize this at some point. And American Gigolo. And that's it. Kind of a weird video. I made it partly just for our own reference. It's kind of nice to have something I can look at with us flipping through all of our records.